Greetings and salutations. I am Richie Moon. Welcome to the Richie Moon Show, and we are here for Spartacus, House of Ashur, Episode 6, Empty Things. Let's get right into it, shall we? This episode opens with the gladiators coming back to the Ludus after their victories at the arena, but their champion Achilles stands at the shores of the afterlife. Ashur even says, "The gods bless us with one hand to ram fists up the other." And I love how Ashur is becoming essentially his version of Batiatus. The Medicus comes out and says that the only way to heal Achilles is to remove her hand to risk further infection. And obviously Ashur, his response is, "So you want to cripple my fucking champion?" And reminds him that his leg was once crippled by the Gaul and now he stands here in firm footing. Medicus says, "Well, produce the man and have him do it." Ashur, ever so gently, places his hand on Medicus' shoulder and says that we lost that Medicus in the conflict with the mad Thracian. And why don't you send him my regards? And he tosses Medicus off the fucking cliff. An ill-advised moved, says Chorus. And he also asks Chorus, how are relations with Operator? Because obviously we are going to need another Medicus. Hilaria inquires about Achilles, but not really out of concern, but at this point, their house's fate is tied to Achilles' health. And also, everyone in Capio wants to fucking see her, right? You know, this woman defying the odds and triumph in the victory. As Ashur prepares for a bath after a long day, he sees Cornelia soaking in her passions as she often does. And much like Caesar, Cornelia reminds Ashur that they are not on equal footing. And she says, "Make no moves absent my blessings," regarding Achilles. So once again, Ashur finds himself on the outside looking inside his own villa. Hilaria inquires Ashur about Achilles, not out of concern, but their fates are now tied to Achilles. So she is of the utmost concern, and also all of Capua is requesting the goddess of death presence after unexpected triumphs. As Ashur prepares to discuss this further and go into the baths, he sees that Cornelia is in there overflowing with her desires, as she often does. And much like Caesar, she reminds him that they are not on equal footing, and even says to him, "Make no moves absent my blessings," in regards to Achilles. He asks Hilaria to please remove the waters from the bath so he can go in it and not soak in Cornelia's passions. Chorus was able to procure a medicus from Operator, but he failed to ask if the medicus can speak common tongue, since he assumed that because Ashur is Syrian that he'd be able to speak Greek, and they're literally over Achilles' body arguing about who can get in contact with the medicus, and the medicus tells him to fuck off. Chorus presses Ashur about the Cilician situation, and Ashur basically responds, and Ashur did tell him that he was not privy to that was not set up from the beginning, and he only found out about that when Caesar told him. And Ashur tells him, "You'll know my thoughts when I deem it." There needs to be an intern champion while Achilles heals. And Caldas continues to press about Achilles' health because, you know, they shared that moment. Tarchon asks his father, "Do you care for the woman or do you care for the champion?" As all the men are standing in a line, they're about to announce the lineups for the contest. Cornelia wants a contest of more intimate nature, so she summons some of the men up for a closer inspection. And also up on the balcony is Cassudia and Viridia, much to Ashur's surprise. Ashur is frustrated that, you know, his house has basically been taken over by Cornelia, and she slights him at every turn. He tells Hilaria to go off so she's not used as base entertainment. She has the men standing in front of Verinia, Cassudia, and Cornelia remove their Sarabegalia. And Cornelia asks Ashur, Didn't you once stand gladiator in the arena? And Ashur responds proudly, yes, a god upon it, and my victories are infamous. And she says, well, why don't you couple words with bold actions? And he gently reminds her that he is the dominus of this house, and she not so gently reminds him that she holds the title of Cinia from Valued Family, which overwrites his title of Lanista, and Ashur is also forced to drop his Sarah Begalia. Much like last week, it's the ego here that is bruised, and this is just a power play. Viridia is clearly uncomfortable, and she even attempts to press her mother about it. Her mother lets her know that they are just guests in this house. So Viridia decides to get up and says that she's had enough wine, it's the heat, and that she'll retire to her house. And Cornelia offers her bed quarters, which are really Ashur's, and she says, no, they were noted when I came in, and I will see them filled, because she's probably had people in there having sex, touching each other. She doesn't want that. Viridia actually goes and finds Ashur, who is deep in thought with wine after, being embarrassed. And Viridia lets him know that she was in error, Caesar's wife. She also said that Ashur's boast proved true in all regards. All right. Viridia asks if she could lay eyes on Achillia, because she is awe-inspiring, and she is in much demand. And also, it obviously from the show, and you can see it, women are treated like second-class citizens. So to see a woman enter the arena, that is, of course, that inflames the heart in such a good way. And this conversation is amazing, because Viridia starts to talk about her husband, and she says that he was a kind man, he was a gentleman, but she also lets Ashur know that marriage was arranged. So it wasn't out of love, even though she grew to love him. This marriage was out of necessity. This marriage was because his family was of high status, her family is of high status. You combine two high status family, you just get a bigger overall high status family. And she says, and I want to directly quote this because it's just such amazing writing. It is a thought born of a whisper, grown to deafening roar. What I grieve now is not his loss, but the purpose and desire denied my own. That perhaps this world offers more than a promise of husband and children. For a villa filled with pretty, empty things, I among them. Chef's kiss. Lydia offers prayers towards Achilles' recovery, and Ashur lets her know that he does not hold faith in said gods. We cut back to Cornelia, and she tells the men to be of a more erect mood for her honored guest. But we see that this is a big play. So during this, while the men are stroking themselves, Cornelia is also telling Casudia that Viridia should marry Quintus, but that would put their family in direct connection with Caesar, who is in direct connection with Crassus. And Casudia says, I fear you mistake me. And Cornelia says, I mistake nothing. So she is using sex and temptation and her daughter, who she wants to see married off, all in a play to get her allegiance to go with Crassus and Caesar against Pompey. Ashur, in a joyous mood as the rain falls on the nighttime, the thoughts of Viridia's has his heart light as a feather. Ashur is still a villain, but he is not a base animal. He understands the delicacy of this elevated position, and also does not offer an apology to Chorus, but giving gratitude for his loyalty. Chorus leaves the villa for private audience with Apater, and Ashur tells him to go you fucking goat, and I hope your cock gets pleased in the taking of it. Apater, not expecting Chorus to come over, and Chorus lets him know that he is over there of his own accord, and that his hands move his own and not of the Syrians. Apater and Chorus present offer to Ashur, and his response is, offer Jupiter's cock in place of mine, and that would still not be suffice. That's when Apater offers his villa and all of his men in exchange for Chorus. Ashur, obviously upset and feeling betrayed, says that he will give his answer at his leisure, and tells Chorus to fall to the ludus and Apater to fall from fucking sight. Erato and Tarkhan is next to continue the contest for the champion of the House of Ashur. Arya tells Ashur that Achilles' condition has unfortunately not changes, and voices concerned over Chorus's possible departure. So they're standing on the balcony having this conversation, and during the course of this conversation, Hilaria pours Ashur a cup of wine. Cornelia comes in the middle of them, takes the cup of wine before Ashur even takes a sip of it, sips a cup of wine, doesn't like it, pours it out, hands the cup back to Hilaria, and basically says, go get the good shit from Rome. I mean, just what a cunt. She has arranged a meeting between Gabinius and Ashur, and she's sending him on this meeting so he can convince Gabinius to allow for Viridia's hand to be taken in marriage to Quintus Thermus, an ally of Caesar. Previously had that conversation with Viridia the day before. He inquires, did Viridia does Viridia desire marriage? And Cornelia says, women do not desire marriage. Marriage desires them. And she is leveraging Achilles' unexpected triumph in the arena as water to blossom harvests of marriage, and Ashur to play unwilling farmer. Whew. Calidus versus Siphius to continue the contest. Gabinius praises Ashur about Achilles and his strategies, especially his strategies. He inquires about Achilles and her injuries, as most of Capua is, because her injuries were most evident. He says that he does not hold faith in the gods, and they both find common ground, which leads to him telling of Viridia's unwavering faith. And he said, how did you come by this information? Did you break words with her? And that's when he let her know that Casudian and Viridia were at his villa the other day. And he says this into regard to Cornelia. Cornelia, a woman in human form, held together only by schemes and ambitions. Now she conspires to see my only daughter bounded by Quintus Thermus to advance maneuverings. So he is well aware of the games that Cornelia is attempting to play to maneuver herself. And that's when Ashur lets it be known that he was urged, better yet commanded by Caesar through Cornelia to help with the advancement of said scheme. Gabinius presses to see if Crassus had anything to do with this, and that's when Ashur lets him know, no, I don't think that Crassus has anything to do with this. This is of Caesar's own ravishing ambitions. And Gabinius says that you speak quite candidly of those who you serve, and that's when Ashur lets his loyalty be known, and he doubled down that I am loyal to Crassus, the man who gave me freedom, the man who offered patronage, the man who offered such elevated position. Gabinius says to Ashur, well, if Crassus has nothing to do with this, then in which direction would you counsel in this? Ashur pleads for it not to be so, and Gabinius says with such strong condemnation, and Ashur says, I've only known your daughter for the briefest of moments, but I do not want her to be a pawn in the game of Cornelia and Caesar's ambition and power. And in that, they stand as one. And Gabinius does not give consent and propose union. Gabinius tells Ashur, place those thoughts from mind. What about your own house? And he says, you must seize the moment and build upon this momentum of a fucking woman in the arena. Ashur hints at the proposal from Apater, and Gabinius says this to him. Men of opposition and power have but one thing in common: the sting of yesterday's sacrifice in service of greater glory of tomorrow. Seize fucking moment and set lost to sea upon distant tide. Ashur takes wise counsel in. We cut to Ashur in the marketplace, and there are groups of people and little kids. All of them are asking, when are we going to see Achilles again? Everybody's asking, when are we going to see Achilles again? And this is what you really want. The brother Ferox and Proculus are also there, and Proculus actually wants to break words with Ashur. And of course, Ashur, what fucking words you need to break with me that I would find of any kind of interest? Achilles has ignited the people, and Proculus actually form union and take advantage of the situation. He offers to have some of his lesser men fight Achilles so she can win, and both of them can benefit from the coin that they would get. And in true Ashur fashion, he responds by telling Proculus to unhinge jaw so he can swallow his fucking cock. Proculus says that, you've gotten so arrogant after just one victory, and Ashur foolishly tells Proculus of the opportunity that Apater is going to give him and boasts of all future glory. We see a flashbacks of Achilles' story. We finally get to see the conclusion. The young lady that she was attempting to protect, the people that were taking her away, she threw the spear in hoping to kill the enemy, but the spear actually went through the young lady, through the enemy. So now we see where all that trauma, all those bad memories come from, and she awakens from that dream back onto the shores of this life. We go to Apater, who finds his entire house slaughtered, and the brother Ferox are surrounding him, saying that you've forgotten yourself and that you wish to leave Capua absent words, because they know that he is going to give all of his villa and his men to Ashur, which would fuck Proculus. And as soon as Apater goes for a sword, they kill Apater. And that is how the episode ends. Just another stellar episode. I want to give a shout out to Alana Pipes, the writer of this episode, because the language is always beautiful, the dialogue is always sharp, but in this particular episode, I just feel that the dialogues and the conversation were exceptional. They were exceptional. They were sublime. And that's why I took the time to quote so many of the lines, because they needed to be quoted. It was beautiful language, as always. You can catch me here next strong for the next episode of Spartacus House Edition. Let the guys be sit that we review another episode. Peace, love, and light.